Well, good morning everybody. This is my first time, so you're going to have to bear with me. I'd like to know if the video is okay and the audio is coming through. If somebody could, whoever it is, just let me know whether you can see and hear me. There's also a delay, so I didn't realise it'd be so big actually, so there is a bit of a delay. And we're going to have to cope and tolerate with that too. Howard, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Skiolist, good morning. Hi. Franz, I see you there. Thank you, sir. Oh, Jeff, hi. Good afternoon to you over there. Some lag. Yeah, there is a lag. Thanks, everybody, for letting me know. Well, that's good that you can see and hear me. Great. Now, I just wanted to point out here that I've got merchandise, and as it says there, 25% off of everything. So if you can help support Mistress's journey, help me out, and maybe consider getting a bit of merchandise, hop onto my website symistress.com and you'll be taken through to all the merchandise there by navigating, and there is a code there, as it says live stream, that you can enter, and that'll give you 25% off of everything. I'd really appreciate your good support on that. Thank you. Oh, Diggamer, good morning, ma'am. Thanks very much. I didn't think you were going to make it. I read your earlier message. Thank you for that. Restoration, DIY, Farmer Jimbo. Oh, Lisa, good morning. What would it be? Good afternoon to you. Really good to see you there. RL, Rob, Canada, that's terrific. Whitney, good morning, sir. Really good to see those people there. Please excuse me a little bit for acknowledging people, but that can sometimes be a little bit annoying. But if you're the person being acknowledged, it is nice. I know that that's how I feel. So I will just sort of acknowledge some people along the way. Hopefully I don't forget people. But it's great to see everybody. Diggamer, thank you so much for that support there. I really appreciate that. That's terrific. My first ever. Thanks very much. I appreciate that. Hello, Rod from the Mojave Desert. Very nice. Very cool. Okay, so moving on from the little merchandise plug there, I just thought I'd say I don't really have a fixed format. I can just start talking about a few things regarding a little bit of the history of how I started this whole crazy journey of building Mistress. And really, I'm happy to be guided by people asking questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. I mean, there may be some little personal things that I might not be too keen on divulging. Please accept that. But otherwise, I'm a pretty open book, I think, as people know. So feel free to ask away. Hola, Laurent. Buenos dias. Keeping our public lands. Yeah, the knee's going well. The knee's going real well. Thank you. Oh, hello, Sailing Quick Creations. Where I was born, Adelaide. That's really cool. Thank you very much. Hi, Louise. I guess that'd be pretty late in the night, so thanks very much for joining. Hi, Steve from Rochester. That's very cool. A little bit overwhelming, actually. It'd be nice to have two of me to keep the conversation going, but it's really quite nice to see people joining. Thanks very much. Hi, Michael from Colorado. Charlie from Washington. Good afternoon to you, sir. Okay, so look, just to make a couple of comments about the beginning. Basically, I grew up sailing. My father was a very keen boatsman. Sailing was the principal interest for him, but fishing, he was also a boat builder. He built a whole range of boats, from plywood to steel to wooden boats. He built little fishing boats, little small sailing boats, day sailing sort of off the beach boats. He built keel boats. He built really flash sort of, I forget the brand of those Swiss boats. Somebody might be able to pop that up for me. He was also building those beautiful timber mahogany boats. And although that was his interest, I can't say he was actually a good father model. He didn't really have a lot to do with us children. I have one brother, one sister. So I can't really say because he had all that interest and put that effort into his interests for himself, it didn't really, I can't say, help me a hell of a lot, although a lot of people will draw that simile that because of my father, that's why I've pursued this. Well, he certainly gave me the interest. I absolutely acknowledge that, and I thank him for that. We grew up sailing, basically, pretty much intra-womb. So from a very early age, we were sailing on keelboats. South Australia, Adelaide, well, out of Adelaide in South Australia, 9 months of the year it's pretty inclement. Strong southwesterlies, winters equal low clouds, regular rain. Doesn't have high rainfall, but it has constant raining, probably like the UK. We do lots of regular sailing trips, overnighters, usually more than one night, across the Gulf of St Vincent or around to the Spencer Gulf, Port Lincoln, Kangaroo Island in the south. So we did do a lot of sailing, and I have really fond memories, and that really did, I guess, sow that deep, salty seed into my veins about my interest for sailing. As a teenager, a late teenager, I got interested in off-the-beach dinghy racing. So I raced a National E, beautiful little 15-foot boats with a main, a jib, a spinnaker, trapeze. I was crew, so I was the one hanging out on trapeze, submerged for sort of 50% of the time in the winter sailing of Adelaide, as anyone who's done that would know. But it was great sailing, and I'm a firm believer that if you want to get a boat and go sailing, start small. Dinghy sailing is just a brilliant start to try to understand how a boat works, but more importantly, how wind works on a boat when wind hits sail. Best upbringing, in my opinion. From there, I bought myself a trailer sailor, and it was a bit of a older and poorly sort of built and fitted out trailer sailor, so I put a lot of effort into, basically I ripped everything out of it and started again, did a little mini refit. I can't say it was a lot of work because it was only a 20-foot trailer sailor, so, you know, very small project. But on the other hand, cleaned it all out, fitted it out so that it was comfortable. It could sleep easily, comfortably, two people. And I would actually go away for weekends sailing. Well, just to mention, I'd actually bought that when I came up to the Sunshine Coast. And so the sailing that I did was here on the Sunshine Coast, and I would actually tow it down to, for example, the Gold Coast or Brisbane, put the boat in the water and sail through the Moreton Bay area, South Stradbroke, Northern Stradbroke and Moreton Island. Really good sailing. Sheltered waters, so quite safe in a small, lightly built fiberglass trailer sailor. But it was enough that I could actually beach it. It had a dagger board made of solid steel, 20mm plate, so did the job for ballast, but you could just I could just raise that and beach the boat. So it was actually quite good for the Moreton Bay. You could pull it up wherever you wanted to on the beaches, go for a walk. I would actually anchor it for night and get a good night's sleep. Had a little outboard, so I had that as an auxiliary. And yeah, I took different people away. We had a great time camping and getting some sailing done. So that's kind of how things started for me, but that seed of wanting to get my own boat and go sailing really started in my early 20s. And it was a seed that I can say to this day, I feel that if I hadn't pursued that, that would be something that I would take to my grave, so to speak, as being, you know, what if, or I wanted to and didn't, or I regret that I didn't, those sorts of things. Very simple explanation of what led me to start building Mistress. So hopefully that sort of explains a bit of a background on how I've got to this point of being committed to this insanely huge project of building a boat on my own. Good morning to you, Mark. Good to see you. Good morning, mate. I saw a question there. Where are we? Louise asks, is my little friend still running around? Louise and everybody else, being winter here, they basically go into holes underground and stay warmer in the cooler months. If we have a hot day, they will come out. They're not like a snake where they go into permanent hibernation for, well, not permanent, but temporary hibernation for a while. They will actually just bury themselves in a hole, stay warm. At the hint of warm weather, they will come out. So I actually haven't seen little mate for a while, and I'm hoping that once the weather does warm up, that he comes back. He's a very cool little mate to have around. Hi, Dan. Hey, nice to see you, sir. Great that you could join us. Good evening, good night, Jacko from Finland. Great to see you. Good afternoon, Eric. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for joining. The two koozie styles, Eric's asking what's the difference. So the koozie is what I guess some of us call the American styled one. It folds flat, so it's actually quite user friendly. You can put it in a pocket or your glove box in your car or the dash on your boat, whatever, but they fold flat. The Aussie ones stay round. They sort of hold their shape so that a bottle just drops straight in. Hopefully that answers that. Good afternoon, Nina. Very nice to see you, ma'am. That's great. Nice to see these names that people keep in touch with the comments on the videos. It's really, really nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Lauren asks, what will be my first crossing when Mistress is seaworthy? So in short, I sort of anticipate a short, sea trials period here on the Sunshine Coast, Mooloolaba, maybe 3 months. I mean, that will just remain to be seen. And then the first thing that I really want to do is go straight up the Queensland coast and then anti-clockwise circumnavigate Australia. Now, I anticipate that will take me years, really, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm really not sure. But Australia is a huge country, and people have probably seen with Free Range Sailing's channel that they've taken 4 years to go from Perth back around to Perth. And I guess, I mean, I was an avid follower of Troy and Pascal. How great was that journey? And it certainly didn't seem like it was 4 years to me. So whether I end up doing something like that in these sort of crazy times at the moment, maybe that's going to be the best option in the short term. But anyway, time will tell. But the short story, up the Queensland coast and then continue anti-clockwise around Australia. Once I get back here, the plan from there is either peel off through the South Pacific or else continue up north across the top again and go across the Indian Ocean. So we'll see. Gee, it just seems even further away now with the world the way it is. But thankfully, I've got an incredible coastline in Australia to be able to actually explore and spend time and do incredible things in remote locations and beautiful beaches, get some surfing done in some remote locations and a lot of fishing, and hopefully have people join me on Mistress for some sailing. That's something I really look forward to. My plan is not to go sailing solo. I've sort of adapted Mistress in the design and build phase so that she will be able to be sailed single-handed, but it's not really my intention. My intention is to have people join me and experience what it is to be on a boat and sail in, well, not only go sailing, but sail in locations that you can't really get to unless you're on a boat. So that's the big plan. Hi Bill, San Diego. Thanks very much for that. I appreciate that. So Rob asks, what design is Mistress? She's a Dutch Van der Stad designed, well, sailing yacht, of course. She's a sloop, but I'm actually rigging her cutter. The rig is already built. The rig's been built for a number of years. That's waiting down on the Gold Coast. So cutter rigged sloop, and the particular design, as I say, Van der Stad, it's a Caribbean, and she's 40 feet. 3.9 meters beam, so very beamy, and basically designed as a fast cruising boat. Yeah, okay. So Paul asks, what influenced my decision about going for a Van der Stat? As, well, he suggests, for example, as opposed to a Joe Adams design. That's a good question. And in fact, I was very, very strongly considering one of Adams' 40-footers. I forget the exact design. I think it might have just been called something with the number 40 in it. It might be like just a Joe Adams 40. It had a split coach roof in the main design. Not shoal draft, sorry, but shallow draft. Different, I mean, Joe Adams' designs, I think, are very good actually. But I had been on 34-foot Van der Stats, which are basically the same generation as Mistress's design. And goodness me, for the length of these boats, they are so spacious. In fact, I guess most yacht designers focus on the three important things, which are, depending on what order you want to put them in, but safety is always high up there, of course. Performance, what's the third one? Sorry about that. I feel a little bit under the spotlight. Literally, I've got a light behind me here, and I've not done this before, and I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed actually. But anyway, the three key design features of a boat. Van der Stat, I do think, with the Caribbean design and the 30-footer, really did it right. They are comfortable. That's the third thing, comfort. They're comfortable, they're spacious, which provides that comfort. The performance, they are not exactly overly heavy boats by comparison to some other designs. As a cruising boat, they're actually quite light. The displacement ratio is very good, approximately 33%. So they perform well. And I do think that the design really is quite proven about their safety. So I think they got that right. And going back to the question about why not Joe Adams or any other design, I just feel that Van der Stat got this really right in their designs. E.G. Van der Stat are an old naval architect design company and still going. And I just think that the Dutch have a lot of good boat designs, the same as the Kiwis. I think there's been some countries around the world that kind of stand out, and I think the Dutch are one of those. And anyway, there's no perfect, you know, I've emphasised that in the videos that I produce, and I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that. There is no such thing as perfect. You've got to make compromises. Welcome to the world of boats. So Jeff is asking, what kind of work did I do before I started on this endeavour? Well, I guess like most people, I've had several lives and a bit of a mixed one at that. Loosely speaking, I started out in the construction industry as a cabinet maker and then a steel monkey or rigger in the days before cherry pickers and safety harnesses and safety lines and lots of outside influence on trying to help people not hurt themselves. So literally climbing up steel and walking on tops of beams and multi-storey buildings, huge big warehouses. That was where I actually started. I then went off to university and got a degree in nursing actually. So qualified as a registered nurse. I spent a long time, many years, in 3 different trauma centres as an ED nurse basically. From there, as part of that, I went back to uni and did postgraduate studies in critical care. And then I started working in remote Australia, in Indigenous communities. So that was an incredible experience right throughout Queensland, the Gulf, islands off the Gulf, Northern Territory. And then I started working in the mining industry. as a site medic, basically. So most of my work in Indigenous communities was as what we call a sole practitioner. So out there in different communities, working on my own, needing to manage all of the medical, health and emergency situations that would arise. In Australia, we've got the access to RFDS, the Royal Flying Doctors Service, so that would be a service I would use for all and any emergencies where I needed to evacuate people. Pretty much the same situation in the mining industry for me, where it was sole practitioner work. So I worked in the Northern Hemisphere in a couple of different countries, and Papua New Guinea was where I basically finished up that sort of work. And so I finished up all of that work, what is it now, 2 years ago, and the whole reason is to dedicate my time full-time to finishing Mistress. I've just really decided that I've got to get her finished and in the water and go sailing. So, you know, it's not easy. The living is, it's like basically camping, and it's not, there's nothing glamorous about it, I can tell you. It's all grind, and then of course I'm stopped in my tracks with my knee situation. So this has been pretty much a 4-month interruption to works. It's not fun, but I'm trying to keep the wheels turning, and I really do appreciate having this channel. One thing that it does is it actually keeps me centered, definitely to a degree, keeps me centered on this whole mission and project. So thank you for being on board. It really is more meaningful than you could possibly imagine. Steve, Minibus Adventures, nice to see you this morning, sir, over there in WA, and thank you very much for that super chat. I really appreciate that. Just looking at some questions here. Sorry about the pause. So Jacko is asking, how tall am I? I'm what I call a short ass. So I'm 5'7", not that tall, but Mistress has, well, there's a decreasing headroom space, but essentially it's just over 2 meters in all the main galley saloon area. There's basically 2 meters headroom, so a lot of headroom. Sailing Sunbird, good morning, mate, down there in Bris. The thickness of the hull is, for Mistress, is 4 mil, and the decks are 3 mil. The cockpit's all 4 mil as well, so that doesn't, the 3 mil is not including the cockpit. And some other areas is actually 4 mil, like the 4 deck plate is actually 4 mil as well. But roughly either 4 or 3 mil, and mild still, for anybody wondering. Yeah, Steve asked about the knee. Knee's going really well actually. I'm very happy with the rehab and the progress on the knee. Can't say the same for my shoulder, that's another thing. I'll talk about that later. I'm not real keen on even raising the subject. But thanks for asking. Yeah, thanks Steve, I saw that super chat, appreciate that. So Bill's asking, am I learning, I guess from the YouTube university as he puts it, or to do things I've never done before. Well, so for example, before I actually started building Mistress, I actually did, we have a college system in Australia called TAFE, and I went to TAFE and did a 6-month welding course, which actually took us through all the different types of welding. So that was MIG, TIG, both with steel and aluminium, also using the gas welding as well to do different sorts of welding there, as well as stick welding. I was open to basically using MIG or stick welding, but after doing the welding course and basically looking at what was involved equipment-wise, I decided on stick welding. So Mistress has completely been built with stick welding, and there's a lot to say about that. Maybe ahead I can talk more about that, but if I was to do it again, what would I use? I'd actually use stick welding. I think it's got some really good positives about it. Also, especially if you're building outside, you know, using gases, although, you know, there's some different equipment where apparently there's improvements with using MIG, but all in all, I think I would still use stick welding. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Oh, good evening, Nick. Nice to see you, sir, over in Ireland there. Thanks for that, Nick. Well, yeah, there's nothing polished about me. What you see is what you get, and honesty has always actually been my highest ethic. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate your super chat. That's really, really good. Hey, listen, as well, just to sort of say again, please take a look at the merchandise. And I sort of say that as well. I mean, 25% off, that's a pretty hefty discount and doesn't really leave me much in the way of profit, but I had a good stream of sales early on and it has slowed down, so you would be helping me out a lot by grabbing a bit of merchandise. I sort of understand that the postage side of it is a bit of an issue, but anyway, if you're in a position to be able to grab some merchandise and, you know, help support the channel, that would really help things out for me, especially at the moment. So if you can, please take a look. All the details there on symistress.com and help support the project. Thank you. So Nina asks, what am I going to do with the decks, basically the lining? So that's actually what I'm starting now. And just to answer to a question that was before that actually, about when am I going to start back doing boat work, I've actually just started. Basically this past week gone, the knee has just started to come good, and I feel like I'm in a position where I can start to do things, especially overhead, and that I feel stable on my legs, and I'm not going to twist that knee. That's the real danger, is if I do any sort of twist motion, I could undo all of that surgery. So that's been the thing that I've had to sort of get to. My physio is saying I really shouldn't be doing any sort of work that is going to risk twisting that, but I do feel that the work that I'm able to launch into next, after the electrical work that I've been doing, is actually getting ahead to start that lining, and that's going to be such a game changer, because it's just a beautiful lining that I've got, which is Western Red Cedar VJ tongue and groove strips. That'll be painted white, so the overall look, once it's all finished, is that it'll have these little nice nautical lines going along the length of the boat, and that'll be everywhere. It'll be on the coach roof, it'll be on the side decks, it'll be on the coach roof sides, it'll be all that nice VJ Western Red Cedar painted white, and that'll get rid of all that ugliness of the insulation. So I'm really quite excited about getting onto that actually, because, well, it's pretty light work as well, which is going to be very welcome, and I think it's going to have a pretty damn nice look. And then, you know, once things are all finished, to have that white ceiling, or lining I should say, and then all that beautiful rosewood and white beech cabin sole, yeah, I think she's going to look quite nice. Hi Bill, hey, thanks very much for that super chat. That is really, really appreciated. Hi Cheryl and Paul, and thanks for asking. And yeah, the knee's coming on real well, thanks. Hey, thank you very much Per Engman, hopping on board, getting some good Mistress merchandise. Much appreciated. Hi Eternal Bliss, Daniel, I guess it's good night to you over there at the moment. So Bumser Moy asks, what's Mistress's approximate weight or displacement? So her design displacement is 9.5, and that's obviously dry, so no liquids like water and fuel, and also provisioning. So 9.5 tons, metric tons. The way I've built her, I believe that she's going to end up probably on the lighter side of the 9.5 ton. That leads to another big topic which I've planned for a while, to put together some videos to explain the changes that I did to the original design. Approximately, I'm I was tracking it at one point, but there'd be at least 40 changes that I've done to the design, some quite large. That's actually the cockpit area and the aft deck area. That's not at all conventional Caribbean design, because I've put this aft deck area space, I've got rid of the wheel steering and put the two hatches in the aft deck. There's actually quite a few reasons that I did that, which to me all make a lot of sense. Also gives you a cockpit area which is not right, which doesn't go right back to the transom, so somewhat gives you a more protected area when you're at sea, and in particular with big following seas. Yeah, I would like to put together at least a video to go through a whole bunch of changes that I did to the design to have put me in a position where I'm getting exactly the boat that I wanted. Thanks very much, Whitney, about the woodworking. Yeah, I've loved it. Actually, going right back to my high school days, that was in my tech studies the thing that I loved the most. Actually, in all of my subjects, it was the thing I loved the most. So that did start at a very young age, I guess. Daniel asks, why don't have a third pump in the galley with beer? Well, yeah, we'll see. Hi, Pete from Ireland. Greets back to you, mate. Nina, I will put that video together at some stage. And I know, for example, Franz, if you're still there, I will be going through, as you've asked in the past, some discussions about why I've made some of these changes, including, I guess I've answered a little bit, but the methodology or the things that were important to me to arrive on the design, but also with those changes, and also the way that I've actually built Mistress, because I did stray a little bit from the exactly recommended way of building Mistress compared to the Van der Stat guidelines. They give a building instruction manual with the plans, and I did stray from that a little bit, and that was because I just felt that after reading a lot of good building small steel boats books, that the background behind why you build and how to build steel boats, yeah, I just felt that there were just a couple of minor things that Van der Stat didn't have exactly right. And they were actually, that's no criticism by the way, but they were actually complying with the Lloyd's standards, Lloyd's being British, and for that reason there were just some ways, methods that they suggested to build the boat which I don't really think are correct when it comes to building in steel. If it was a timber boat, they had it 100% correct, but that's not steel. Don't mean that to be cryptic, but if you want more explanations about that, fire away a question. Now, I'm just looking at the time here. My loose thought was that I'd go for about half an hour. It's now been 40 minutes, so I don't know if people are getting bored of me blabbering away, but we can either wrap it up, or if you want to ask some more questions. I'm just going to have a quick scan through the chat box there and see whether I've missed any questions, but if you want to fire off a question, feel free. Otherwise, we could look at winding things up. I know it's been, well, for me it feels like it's been pretty damn quick, but if this has been working out okay, we can do it again. I don't think I said good morning, Walter, down in Victoria, so good morning there. Lisa, sorry, you asked about when am I going to launch or splash. There's no answer to that question. It's the most common question asked actually from or to anybody building a boat, I would suggest. And it's a trap, to be honest, because whenever anybody who's built a boat or building a boat throws an answer about the time that it's going to happen, I don't know. I don't know anybody who's launched a boat when they plan to. And you know, I've just had this knee thrown into the mix, pulled me out of action for 4 months. So I know it's frustrating for people when they don't get an answer to that, but look, it's just an impossibility from my point of view. I've tried that before, in other words. It doesn't work. Morten Randrup in Denmark. Good evening to you. Sorry about that pause again, people. If I could have one of me reading and the other talking, it would be better, wouldn't it? Larry, I might have answered your question already, but I did actually talk about my background in terms of work background. So just said very quickly, I did have a time in the building industry, then went into health, but I've always had a real keen interest on basically using my hands, building things. And I guess I could add to that, I actually did build 2 houses, the first of which I built with my own hands, from digging foundations to the design of garden. Done a lot of work, and I guess you could even say abuse, to this body of mine. So no surprise that I've actually not only had this knee issue, although I can't really say that's down to doing the work, but certainly my shoulders. I've had 2 operations, one on each shoulder, for shoulder reconstructions, and that was down to the physical life that I've led, especially Mistress. So Gary's asking, am I married? No, I'm not married, and in fact I don't have a girlfriend, so travelling solo. It would be nice to have a girl in my life, but anyway, what do I say about that? Yeah, hopefully, Bill, I answered your question about the technical background. Yeah, Louise asking about plans for the mast rigging. I did mention that the rig's already built. She's going to be cutter rigged, a cutter rigged sloop. I'm really, really happy with the rig. I just want to get Mistress down to the marina where she's going to be launched to be able to get that rig on. It's one thing that really pulls me forward, actually. I just can't wait to stand the rig. But a beautiful rig, so aluminium spars, in other words, mast boom is aluminium, anodised, and stainless steel rigging. I'm going conventional with stainless steel wire. Yeah, okay, Franz, sorry, I missed your good question there, sir, about the plans for the sail setup, including furlers, etc., reefing. So that's a really good question. My initial thoughts have always been that I'm not going to be having a furling head sail or furling head sails. That might change, but the approach that I'm taking is that I would have set sails that I would hank on. Now that's seen as sort of old school, and you know, a lot of people would say, why in God's earth would you do that? It's far, far more convenient to have furling head sails. And I agree with that. But the thing is, I love sailing, and really, well, there's lots of things I love actually. But one thing about once I do get Mistress in the water is that I'm going to just love doing passages. And what sailing really is about is using the sails to pull or push the boat through the water. Now with a furling head sail, whenever you furl or start furling that sail away, you actually lose the aerodynamic abilities of that sail to act as a wing and pull that boat through the water. So the advantage with having set sails that are hanked on is that you get much, much better performance. And so this has been my thinking, is that I'm going to be having hanked on sails. Now, as I say, that may change. The good thing is, if I do initially go with hanked sails, because they're not built yet, changing those over so that I could actually add those sails to a furling track is not actually a big deal. I've already spoken to my rig builder about that. So yeah, you can probably hear in my indecision that it's on the table that I go for furling head sails, but I'm just not decided at this point in time. We'll see. But up until recently, I've been quite happy to go for hanked on sails. In short, much, much better performance. And if you doubt that, just look at any class of sailing, racing or racing class, whether it be off the beach dinghy sailors or offshore coastal sailing boats, all of them at a professional level are using hanged-on sails. The reason for that is performance. When it comes to the mainsail, I'm not going to be going for a furling mainsail. And in short, the two key reasons for that are, well, you can have two approaches, I guess. You can have in-mast furling or in-boom furling. For me, the problem with the in-mast furling is you've got a lot of weight up in that mast when you're furling away, particularly a wet mainsail in a big seaway, lots of weather. And so that's not really the place that you want a lot of weight. The other thing is, as or per to my methodology of building Mistress, it's wheelbarrow mechanics, simplicity. So for that reason, having motors, electric motors, which is probably what it would end up being on a boat like Mistress, having electric motors furling away, excuse me, furling away sails, just introduces another device that can fail, which always ends up being at the worst moment possible. So yeah, the idea of furling for the mainsail, I'm not real keen on that idea. Pretty much the same thing with the boom, except minus the weight aspect of, the having furling in the boom. You don't have all that weight up high, but I'm just not keen on the idea of electric motors, small ones in small places like that where, at the worst possible moment, something jams or something doesn't work, and you've got a full mainsail up with the wind howling on and growing. Yeah, I'm actually speaking from a little bit of experience as well, because I've actually been on boats where these things have happened. Now, I have zero criticism to anybody that might have a boat with in-mast furling or in-boom furling. No criticism whatsoever. It's just that this is my choice. I'm trying to keep things simple and as sort of wheelbarrow mechanics, fixable by somebody like me who's not got a background in engine, whether it be combustion or electric motor engine background. So I just want to keep things really simple. When it comes to reefing, that's quite a subject in itself actually, and my past experience with reefing is that, I just want to say this quickly because I don't want to lose too many people, but one method you can do to reef is, instead of pulling the luff down first and then reefing the leech after, you can actually do the reefing on the leech first, which gets the boom up out of the way and starts to reduce sail immediately, and then you pull down on the luff, and that way the sail that's been reefed is already taking the weight of the boom, which to me is a safer option. So anyway, that's my very, very quick comment about reefing. I'll be talking more about that later. Anyway, I hope I've answered at least part of that question, Franz. Steve, I do hope to visit Seattle and both coasts of the United States ahead. I would love that. Not sure why my phone's going off. Sorry people, I've probably been missing all your recent questions. I got a bit caught up in the talk about sails and furling. Sorry for this pause people, but I need a partner too, don't I? for more reasons than one. But having, in the live streams I've watched, it's so much nicer, for example, when there's a couple. I mean, all of you girls are the flowers, so to speak, and much nicer to look at than this mug face, but you could have somebody continuing the conversation and somebody reading. Larry asks, did I say no will? Yeah, that's right, Larry. I guess another somewhat big topic, but put simply, my intention with Mistress is to do sea miles. I really have this big desire to cross oceans and do lots of sea miles. With a cruising boat that's going to be doing a lot of sea miles, or a racing boat for that matter, you don't really have people permanently stationed at the helm, sort of steering as such, using self-steering devices, whether wind vane or electronic, is the main thing that you would use to actually steer a boat. In other words, you're not going to spend a hell of a lot of time at the helm. Unless, of course, there's hazards with the weather that you need to be there. But, you know, for most sailing, you're crossing miles whereby you don't need to be at the helm. Mistress will be having a wind self-steering system. I will also have an electric auto helm. But the wind vane is basically when there is wind, that will do the job absolutely adequately. And then when there's very light or no wind, that's where the electric auto helm comes into play. You know, being at a wheel, driving a boat like most are sort of rigged with having wheel steering, there's no real, how can I put it, it doesn't bother me to be sitting or standing in the cockpit holding onto a tiller as opposed to a wheel. Now, there's more to say about that, which is wheel steering, once again, back to the wheelbarrow mechanics and simplicity, you're introducing more mechanical levers, gears, chains, wires, parts that potentially can fail. And once again, I'm speaking from experience. I've actually been on 3 boats where in the most inopportune moments, we've lost the steering and we've had to do what? Well, all boats, sailing boats, need to have what they call an emergency steering system. What is an emergency steering system? It's a tiller. So Mistress will have the emergency steering permanently in place. And for those who've done quite a bit of sailing, there's a big difference between the whole feel of steering a boat with a tiller versus some sort of wheel steering, which involves gears or pulleys or pulleys. The feel is very, very different, and the most sensitive and direct form of steering a boat is by a tiller. So Mistress will be having a tiller. I know that'll upset some people, but so Christopher, thanks for the question, asking what are the main big tasks left to go. Yeah, good question. So with the headlining, that the other thing involved in that is that I need to have the load wiring with regards to the electrics. So I'll be doing that part and parcel with the lining. So they'll be happening together. After that, the whole aft section of Mistress hasn't had the lining put in yet. There's the lining in the aft section, and then there's the sole in the heads area, as well as building the main sink area, basically, in cupboard. I'll also be having a holding tank in the heads area. I'm just going to be, I don't think at this stage I'm going to be building my own. I'll probably just buy an off-the-shelf plastic holding tank system with all the fittings. From there, I guess the main thing from there is a bit of minor cabinetry work. So I'll be having some cupboard space built, and along with that, finishing off a lot of the install that I've already put in place with the furniture, getting just the finished trim, fiddles on the bench areas, on the saloon table. I'm sure there's going to be a zillion little things, but lining, load wiring, the aft hull lining, the wet area furniture, I guess you could say, getting that main cabin sole and cabinet, and then finish trim and painting. And to sort of say as well, people might not have caught or realise the main colour inside of Mistress, when things are all said and done, is going to be white. I'll be having, obviously there's that beautiful rosewood which is exposed, and most of the trim and some of the doors, for example the galley doors, that'll all be exposed rosewood. So I'll be having that beautiful rosewood, but otherwise the main colour on the bulk of the bulkheads will be white. so that she's given quite a nice light colour scheme. Polished timber and white. That's going to be the main colour theme. So BGT asks, how did the build affect my financial situation? Well, not exactly sure what you mean by that, but building a boat costs a lot of money. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there, BGT. Feel free to make that clearer. Mark Stumpf asks, am I open to volunteers helping? Yeah, for sure. It'd need to be the right person. Some things that need to line up. One thing is, I don't have anywhere here to put people up, but yeah, for sure, the right people. Okay, Bumsamoy, the fuel tank, water tank, waste tank, how big? So the fuel tank is 170 litres, and I have one, that's just one. The water storage is all up 650 litres, divided in 2 tanks, one under each saloon seating area. And what was that? The engine. The engine's 33 horsepower, a 3-cylinder Isuzu diesel. Ben, you've asked about the marine electronics and self-steering. The main navigational electronics are going to be Raymarine. Same with the radar. With regards to the self-steering, the wind self-steering, yes, I'll be making that myself. I like that, Ben, about taking Leo's approach at 2 years. I'm hoping it's not going to be that long, but point taken very well. Thanks for that. Leo's great. Thank you, Nina. I hope we all have a bright future, actually. Shout out to everybody too in these crazy times. Stay sane, people. It's not easy. It really isn't. So Anthony, thanks for the question. I did answer earlier about my sailing background, so you might want to have a look at the video later, but in short, I actually grew up sailing on keelboats, did some off-the-beach dinghy racing, and then after that I had my own trailer sailor. And one thing I didn't say actually was I've done some other on-boat experiences. For example, I sailed around the North Island of New Zealand over a 3-month period. In a cruising situation. That was terrific. And I've done some short ocean crossings from, for example, New Caledonia to Australia on keelboats, obviously. Jacko's asking about lazy jacks, for sure. And being a cutter-rigged boat, I'll also have running backstays. So yes to lazy jacks and also running backstays. Yeah, condensation is an issue. Bumsamoy's asking about the condensation. You just have to do your best. As I've said before, everything's a compromise, and the spray-on insulation I've put on actually will go a long way to preventing, really, probably where a lot of boats don't have any insulation at all. This is going to go a long way to reduce condensation, especially at the lighter ends. I mean, once you get right to the extremes latitude-wise with serious cold weather, condensation's always going to be an issue, but you know, there's no perfect solution for all of that. And ventilation, and that's why with the furniture build that I've done on Mistress, I've got a lot of ventilation holes. But, you know, the short story is it's always a bit of a challenge in colder climates. Hi, Dennis, Florida. The launch date, comment before about using Leo's cycling answer of 2 years. I'm hoping it's not, but, you know, I'll settle on that for this live stream. Hi, Jerry. Good evening to you, sir. Franz asking about SSB radio. Ham radio. I'm actually not. I think that with the satellite technology that's available nowadays, I do think that that's going to be the way that I'm going to go for, you know, long distance communication aids. And I will have a redundancy with that as well, but I'm really not thinking of going for HF radio. I think VHF and satellite aids communication wise will do me. Now, will that work forever in terms of what the future holds. Who knows? But I guess, like I feel about other things, if I really feel ahead that there's a need for that, I can always install later. So Digger, you're asking about PyPilot, Raspberry Pi, open source. I've only read a little bit about that, to be honest, so I'm really not on top of the usefulness and what's involved in it. So short answer, I'm not sure about that. Another thing to add to the list of things to learn about. Oh, thanks, Mark, to you and Dawn for working hard. So Mark and Dawn, one of my patrons, have been giving me some help. They volunteered to help and very, very graciously doing some cleanup work on the hard dodger windows. I left it too long to remove the adhesive plastic covering, and that's really adhesed to the polycarbonate, and those guys are removing that and doing a damn good job, so thank you. Now, I just thought I'd add as well, someone started up a tool in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it sounds pretty loud to me. I hope that's not coming across too loud for you, but apologies. Hiya, Will. Hey, good to see you, Will. Thanks very much for joining. Bob asks about the wind steering arm. Yeah, I'll be building the whole wind steering, self-steering. That's going to be another big topic for a video ahead once I get to that. I'll probably end up building that after Mistress is launched, actually. I've already got all the brackets welded onto Mistress's stern, got these arms in place and brackets to actually take the rudder, and I need to build all the trim tab and linkages to go up to the aft deck area. Part of the brackets are in place already, but as far as the main rudder, trim tab, linkages, that'll be done once Mistress is in the water. Is the build, BGT asks, is the build within a calculated budget, or is there a risk of going bankrupt? How did I set my budget, and are you staying within it? Excellent questions, and the short answer is I did budget before I started, and I've not borrowed any money whatsoever. I've paid with my own hard-earned money along the way, and I do have savings to finish Mistress, and I haven't blown the budget, so things are still tracking exactly as planned, to be honest. I can't say that I've had surprises at this point in time, which is actually saying something, right? Because, you know, who builds a boat and doesn't blow the budget? But yeah, thankfully I've got the money and things haven't blown out, and that money is still there to get Mistress completed, which is very, very, it definitely relieves some stresses that have come along the way regarding setbacks. She will be finished as planned. Yeah, well, I was just saying before that this past week I've really got to the point where I can stand with all of the rehab work that I've been doing for the knee. The risk is twisting the knee, so I've got to a point where I'm feeling strong enough to start doing some work overhead, or, you know, any work, keeping in mind that I can't twist that knee at all. And so that work is just starting now. I'm just starting to get back to a little bit of work now. Ben, good question about the outros, how I've got lots of J boats. Yeah, they are absolutely and always have been a huge inspiration to me. I have I guess you could say, my little trademark there, to the beauty of sail. I just can't think of a better yacht design in all of human history that captures sailing beauty better than the J boats. I just, you know, I can look at them ad infinitum, and so yes, very, very big inspiration. Great question. I'm glad you noticed too, by the way. And no, I haven't had any involvement with them, but my goodness, that would be a dream come true, that one day to be able to hop on any of those J boats, the older ones, of course, they're building some newer ones, but any of those beautiful older ones, I can only wish, right? So the AV8Rs, thanks for the comment, and yes, I'm still living on Mistress. Oh, yeah, the noise has just stopped, Eric, so hopefully you can hear the birds again. I have, so actually, 3 days ago, I saw bird number 100 in this area. I'm a keen bird watcher, and just from where I am here, 100 different species. And for those interested, it was an olive-backed oriole, bird number 100. Hager, hi there. And correct, I did buy the plans, a full set of plans. Is there a community built around them? There used to be a bit of a Vanderstat community, but I'm not sure how well maintained it is now. I was sort of, yeah, I was tracking some forums before. It's been, well, years now since I've done that, so I'm not really sure how alive it is, but there used to be. So Cheryl and Paul, I used to do fi-fi work. In fact, for about 16 years, well, over a 16 period, I was doing fi-fi work, for sure. My rough schedule was month on, month off. Well, it looks to me like this is running much, much longer than I thought, and I really, really appreciate your interest, but I think I'll wind it up now. Just mindful that I don't want this to go too long. I think it can be a bit boring for many. So look, I hope you've got something out of this, and just as a last plug, if you could have a look at the merchandise by hopping on to symistress.com and grab something there for yourself or for a friend or family as a way of helping me. It really does support what I'm doing. I had a good stream of sales earlier on, but it has come to a bit of a dry spell, so I've got particularly plenty of larger sizes from, well, pretty much from large up to 3XL t-shirts in all colours. So you've got the black, the grey, the white and the blue. Plenty of caps there. I've got plenty of stubby coolers or koozies. So if you think you could help out by grabbing a bit of merchandise for either yourself or somebody else, that would go a long way to helping me and supporting Mistress's journey. Yeah, if you don't mind, hop on there, grab yourself something. I'd appreciate that a lot. But otherwise, I'll sign off, and I just can't thank everybody enough for hopping on and joining me. For me, it's, well, for us here in Australia, it's this morning. For lots of people in the US and Canada, it's the afternoon now. And for those in the UK and Europe, both Western and Eastern Europe, it's obviously nighttime. And thanks very much to you guys, especially for staying up late. But no, look, thanks to everybody for tuning in and being a part of this first live stream for Mistress. So I think this has been a success. I'm actually really, really pleasantly surprised that as many of you are tuning in and being a part of this, and thanks so much for all your comments. I really, really appreciate it. So we could probably look at doing this again in the future. As I say, I would consider this a success. So thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you being involved, your support, watching, you know, giving me likes on the videos and commenting. I love the exchange. I really take seriously every comment, and I just hope that this continues to grow and that the community gets bigger and that we can meet ahead. You know, I really, really look forward to it. As I said before, once Mistress is in the water, my intention is not to just go sailing solo. I want to have people on the boat to come sailing and experience what Mistress has to offer. She's going to be a very comfortable boat to sleep on and to eat on and to fish from and to sail on. So I really, really do look forward to having people on board to enjoy and experience what she has to offer. I think she's going to be a pretty nice boat when she's finished. Rod Noble, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your super chat there. Yeah, I really appreciate your good comments. Sorry, just a quick comment. Dan says, don't need merch, what's your PayPal? Thank you for that. So I do have a PayPal address, which is actually, if you go to any of my videos, and look in the description, the paypal.me, I think it's paypal.me/SY Mistress. Check it out though, get that correct, and yeah, I would really appreciate any assistance that people can offer. And once again, what it says to me in terms of me being here on my own doing what I'm doing is that people are interested and people are engaged and people are supportive. So everything means more than just the dollars that you might send. It's a real vote of support, and yeah, it means a hell of a lot, not just the dollars that you're sending. And thank you very, very much to all of those patrons who have hopped online this morning. Mark, Dawn, Franz, Will. For those who might be interested, look, you can become a patron and get access to a lot of extra stuff that I don't put out publicly, but also you get access to the videos earlier. And again, it's the engagement. We have a nice community growing there where we have a lot more discussion. And I think I could say we're getting to know each other at a level that is not there on just watching the YouTube videos. So if you're interested in becoming a part of that community and helping out and supporting, as I say, the Patreon is there that you can join. You can do that for as little as $1. So that would be another way that you can hop on board and support, but also that we could get to know each other better. It's not a one-way street. You get to know a bit about me, but I'm actually interested in getting to know you people as well and growing that community. So I think I've ranted and raved enough, but thanks so much for your patience and interest. It means a heck of a lot. I'll continue to read those comments as I log off, so sorry if I haven't answered a question there. Thank you so much for your engagement, your interest, and your support. Good morning, good afternoon, good night to all of you. Have a great not only day, night, week ahead, and more to the point, a safe one, and keep sane. Thank you.